Hey, hey, good morning. I'm so excited because I was able to get a published author to come and join me here on my personal profile. So I'm very excited to introduce my very best friend, Chad Peavy, who has just announced his big launch of his book, Break and Untangle. And so, Chad, hello and welcome to my feed. Let's
Hey,
hang out.
Amanda.
Let's talk about your book. Let's talk about your process. Let's talk about all the things. And if
Sure, let's do it.
people are wanting to just hang out with us this morning and have some coffee and grab a cup of whatever, that's the goal this morning. We're just hanging out.
Absolutely. I'm super excited to be with you, and thank you so much for asking me. I appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Oh, we got people joining us. Hello, good morning, Jen. I'm glad you're
Good
here. I'm
morning.
glad
Good
you're
morning.
here. So, Chad, I mean, like, speaking as a friend, I am so incredibly proud of you. I know we've been talking about this just every week. You know, just as friends, you're not a client, you're not anybody that I'm not paid to talk about this. This is not a paid conversation. But I am just so immensely proud of you. I mean, this has been some
Thank
hard
you.
work, huh?
Yeah, it's been very, very intense, but hopefully it will all be worth it. And I have to say, I couldn't have gotten through the process or over the finish line without your help and your inspiration. And uh, for those that probably don't know, Amanda and I talk every Monday at 4 p.m. We have a play date where we jump on a phone call or a Zoom and catch up. And it has been so helpful for me to have you there as a part of my support system. And I really can't thank you enough for lending your ear and all those painful weeks of listening to me ramble and whine and the roller coaster that was writing this book. So thank you.
Oh my gosh. The pleasure is absolutely mine, and I absolutely feel the same way. Like I feel like on this journey of life, if you are feeling if you're feeling alone, if you're feeling very lonely on this journey, I remember, I took a little trip up to Austin not too long ago, and we were going for a walk, and Chad and I actually met in a mastermind. We were both in a mastermind, and we didn't know at the time that we would become fast friends. But it was really funny because Chad asked me, like, why did you join the mastermind? And I said, to get friends. And
Well, I hope you got your money's worth.
I did honestly. I really, really, really did. And I really do value and treasure our friendship and
Likewise.
our Monday play dates, because truly, life is tough, isn't it? I mean, gosh, the last 12
It
months for
is.
everyone has been 18 months, whatever months it's been, I don't know.
Yeah, it's been rough, but
It's been rough. It's been real.
easier with friends for sure.
It's so much easier, so much easier. So I mean, this took you a minute, so we've been talking about it. I mean, I talk about my kids every week, I talk about this business every week, you talk about the book every week. I mean, like, that's pretty much what it is.
That's our thing. Yeah, that's our thing. Yeah.
So how long has it been? Like, tell me about the process a little bit.
Yeah. So I started about 4 years ago thinking that I wanted to write a book and tell my story and also share not just my story, but the process that I went through to handle that story. As I talk about in the book, I grew up a gay kid in Arkansas, very rural, very conservative, um, fundamentalist Christian type environment. And so that kind of environment growing up, the way that was real for my life experience, who I was really, really challenging. And it caused a lot of damage and a lot of things that I had to overcome. And so I wanted to write about that story. And that's what I did. And it took a really long time. It took about 4 years. And with a lot of therapy and a lot of support, finally birthed this baby.
Well, babies only take about 9 months. So, you know, and I mean, even if you were having an elephant baby, that would only be 2 years. So you kind of doubled the burden there. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
writing a book like this, I mean, this is not just words. This is really revealing a lot about your personal story. And you talk in the book about identity, and you talk
Mhm.
about purpose, and you talk about meaning, in ways that are, you know, what I really enjoyed about the book. I've got a copy here. I can't show it very well because it green screens out. You can show a copy if you'd like.
This
I love
that's
that
the
cover, you guys. Isn't
thank you.
that such a great cover? I feel like I would stop at an airport bookstore and grab that book. You know, I feel like
Hmm.
that's a sign of a
Hmm.
great personal development cover. But you know, what I really appreciated as I was reading this book is the you know, it does have some deeply personal stories in it. You did get very vulnerable, and at the same time it's extremely well researched, is very academically supported, and it also has a lot of actionable exercises in it, which I
Hmm.
really appreciated, because I feel like a lot of times I'll read something and I'll be like, that's a good idea, and it just kind of stops at the idea and it doesn't really apply. And because of the sharing that you do in it, I found myself, obviously I'm not a gay kid from Arkansas, but I related still to so many of your stories because they were so personal. Yeah, there was such a wonderful balance in that book.
Well, thank you. And it's not a book written just for the gays. It's for anybody that grew up
Yeah.
feeling like a misfit, or feeling like they were other, or feeling like the things that they were learning growing up just doesn't match with their experience in life anymore. And so that was really important to me to, I didn't put a big rainbow flag on the cover because it's not, certainly, I hope, helpful to folks that identify as gay or lesbian, but certainly not exclusively to that community. And I think, for the research part of it, that's just who I am. I think it's who you are too. Where, it's one thing to just read Instagram quotes that make you feel good for a minute, but I really need to understand the why, and then eventually I need to understand the how to make a difference. I can't just live in the inspiration. I actually need nitty gritty tactical things to do.
Right.
And for me, that's important because it was, and I talk about it in the book, sort of the bottom of rock bottom for me was in bed depressed for about 6 months, and I couldn't function. I probably should have been checked in somewhere, and but that didn't happen. It was right after the recession of 2008. I had lost my business. I had lost my identity at the time of being president of the Chamber of Commerce and founder of the Austin Pride Foundation and business owner and entrepreneur. And then all of that just came crashing down. It seemed like it was like the same day, like everything just
Mm.
changed. And I kind of lost it. And I made the decision at that point, once I about 6 months it took me, of just laying in bed and not having the energy to get up, and I made the decision that I'm either going to check out, or I'm going to really lean into life and figure this out. And my boyfriend at the time, who is now my husband, was instrumental and key in just making sure I ate every day, showered every few days, like got out of the house maybe once a week. I mean, it was rough. And so when I leaned in, I made the decision to just lean in with a lot of support, and started down the personal development path, and picking up every book I could possibly find, picking up every academic journal I could find, and trying to relate my experience to what I could find in the research to really crawl my way out of this depression.
Oh my
So yeah,
goodness.
that was
Yeah,
this. That's
it's
how it came about.
amazing how those life experiences can really draw us into personal development. You know that the I don't talk about it a whole lot, but that being in the muck and being really down, that other person around you, or those couple of other people around you that can see you And even when you say, I want to be alone, they're like, not quite leaving you alone, you know?
Hmm.
Being there to make sure you're taken care of, being there to make sure that you're safe, being there to make sure that you know that they are there,
Yeah.
that makes a huge, huge difference. And, thank you for sharing that. And, that personal development path, I've loved getting to know you and your perspective on therapy as well, because you're very vocal about being pro therapy, pro mental health, pro like getting that support. I've been on, kind of similarly triggered, I guess you could say, of having a 6 months depressive episode, not able to get out of bed. Very fortunate of having people around me that keep keep knocking on the door, keep checking
Yeah.
in. And at first, it started with treatment, and then it started with a path into self discovery and personal development. And I have to say, when I was writing the review for your book, I was saying, I wish I had this book at 17.
Mm,
I wish I had this book at
me too.
23. I wish I had this book at 27. Like, there are several times that I wish, like, the thing about this book is that it covers a lot of ground, actually. It reads pretty quickly, for the amount of for the ground that it covers in the realm of personal development. I mean, you cover purpose, meaning, money,
Mm, yeah.
relationships. You cover quite a lot of ground, and you can move through it fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Um, it's not a very it's not for the amount of ground you cover, it doesn't feel very dense, if that makes sense.
Mm,
It's still pretty light to get through. And
yeah.
I just what I want to say is that, for anybody who's kind of like, geez, am I depressed, should I get help, or maybe I should be doing self development, or maybe I should be reading a book, or maybe I should be getting a coach. I feel like the answer is like yes. And from
Yeah.
speaking to you and all of that, like, can you talk a little bit about, if somebody was thinking about whether they should reach out to a therapist, or whether they should consider whether something's wrong, or whether they should just kind of go along and get along. Like, do you mind speaking to that a little bit?
Yeah. Happily. First, I would say um, I don't like the stigma that is attached to therapy, just overall.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that stigma oftentimes comes from folks who are um, uninformed of what that is actually about. I
Mm-hmm.
certainly grew up in an environment where you did not tell your business to a stranger. You did
Mm-hmm.
not talk about what was going on at home with the school counselor. I started seeing the school counselor when I was in fourth grade. Um, but I would have never shared with them and did not share with them what was going on at home. There was just this, they are outsiders. We don't talk about our business. But if you don't confront what's going on, and for me, that was what was going on at home, and the issues that created. If you don't confront that, and if you don't get that out, it just has a way of festering
Mm-hmm.
and showing up in ways that are really unexpected, whether that's a depressive episode like I experienced. I also have a lot of anxiety, which shows up in weird ways, like my hands will itch. I remember as a kid, I had a lot of stomach aches. Um, Growing up, I would have a lot of like back pain, and the ways that like the depression and the anxiety and things would always show up in my body. I would have
Mm-hmm.
never been aware of that kind of stuff had I not reached out and gotten help. And so my therapy journey, which I think is one piece, and you mentioned this as well. Therapy is one piece to the overall plan. I don't think that therapy, as much as of an advocate as I am of it, I don't think it is the end all be all solution to all
Like
of
the
your
one
problems.
thing, the silver
It's
bullet that
not the one
everybody's
thing.
always looking for.
No, it's not. It's not. I think that if you have access to a good coach, I think that is extremely helpful. I've done individual therapy, I've done group therapy, and I've done couples therapy. And I've done all of those at the same time, along with coaching, along with my own research and personal development journey on my own. And that's a lot. And I think if you're in a position in life where you can get all of that help, I mean, I'm so crazy, I needed all that help. But if you're in a position where you can get all of that help like that, I think all of those things are important, but not one thing is going to be the solution.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I don't really know where else I was going with that, Amanda, other than I am a big advocate for it. Don't let the stigma keep you from engaging with therapy. Um, and don't be afraid of pushing back on your therapist, and asking for what you need and demanding what you want and getting what you need from your therapist. Don't just let them dictate to you what is. Engage with them, engage with that relationship. Yeah. I don't know where
Yeah.
else you want me to go with that, but that's kind of the high level what I think about therapy. What's going on up here?
No, I really appreciate it, and I love that. I love that perspective because I think I remember when I very first got into the personal development world, um, I even felt shame about picking up a personal development book. You know,
Mm,
I used to get on airplanes to fly to wherever I was going for my client, and I remember considering whether I should have a book jacket for reading a book called The Happiness Project. Like, I was literally feeling shame about reading a book about
yeah.
feeling more happy in my life, right? And it was the most cheerful cover ever, you know. and and I remember just sort of thinking like a lot of, have you ever seen the movie Cocktail with Tom Cruise? No, maybe. Um, and like even in that movie, the character's getting made fun of for having his self help books behind the bar, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
I remember even just being a young kid and getting made fun of for using big words,
Yeah.
and and
Yeah.
I feel
SAT
like,
words.
right? Yeah,
Uh-huh.
exactly. Or if you've ever been that kid that scored a little higher on a test, and then it's like, "Oh, you're trying to be so smart." Or, "Oh, you know, if you maybe you had a hard time getting the grades," and it's like, "Oh, you're too dumb." You know, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like there's a lot of social pressure to be normal. But what is
Yeah.
normal exactly? Right? And I
Mm-hmm.
felt like, you know, as I was reading Break and Untangle, there was a lot of it's really about a book about experiencing personal freedom. And if I was to really summarize personal freedom, you know, for me, it's a lot of permission.
Yeah.
Like permission to be who
That's
you are fully.
that's my
Permission
shirt today.
granted. There you go.
Yeah.
That's so good. That's so good. So today, like you chose today to launch your book. Why today?
I chose today because it is the beginning of Pride Month.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I don't know why it was like, oh, it's the first, it's a good day to launch a book,
Good
and
day
it's
to
the beginning of
launch.
Pride Month. Um, and so here we are. And also, just to be really transparent and honest, um, like I said, and you mentioned, it took 4 years to do this. It got to the point where it's like, I just need to put a date down and be finished with this damn thing. So June 1st just happened to be that date. And I think you were part of the conversation with me of like, just pick a date and let it go. Yeah. And so June 1st was like, okay, that's Pride Month. That kicks it off. Let's just go with June 1st. So
I love it. I love it. I
yeah.
love it. Sometimes you
Yeah.
do just have to pick a date and just let it be the date. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, for sure. I mean, there are definitely things that I could have done different or done more of or added to or made the launch a little different. You were talking to me this morning. She's like, are you doing a podcast interviews all day? And I was like, no. No, I didn't because, I just picked a date and released the book. And that was a big deal for me. That was sort of my personal freedom moment, just getting this thing out into the wild and letting it go. And I'm happy about it. I'm very proud of the result.
You should be very happy about it and should be very proud of the result because it is really really impressive. You know, I have a lot of coaches and consultants in our midst, and a lot of aspiring authors as well. You know, people that want to write books and want to publish books. You made the choice to self-publish this book, so I
Yeah.
was curious if you wouldn't mind just sort of sharing a little bit of what that was like, and
Yeah.
if you had kind of a time machine. One of my favorite coaching questions is, if you're given a tiny time machine, just a little tiny one, and you were to write a message to yourself on a post-it, in that tiny time machine and maybe send it back 2 years, what would you say to yourself on that
I
tiny
would,
time machine?
yeah, it's a really good question. I learned an enormous amount going through the self-publishing process, and I can tell you, I will not ever self-publish again.
Wow.
Um, I would do not for the kind of book that I did. As you've mentioned, the emotional work that had to go into this book, in addition to like fun. So there's the feelings that we have, right? And then there's the language that we use to express that. And that is quite the process. And so if I the note I would send back in the time machine would be hire either Scribe Media or hire self-publishing school
Oh, wow. You've
and
done the
do.
research. You guys, write this down.
Yeah, I would do. I would not want to, for my first book, I would not want to traditionally publish, but I also would not self-publish. And Scribe Media and Self-Publishing School are these companies that are sort of a hybrid, where they're going to offer you all the resources. They've already got the plans. Everything is done. It gives you a community that you can talk to when you have a question, that allows you to, but again, give you a community. There were so many days in this process. I would have gladly paid whatever their fee is, $10,000, $20,000, just to get a question answered. Like, please don't make me watch another YouTube video to figure out how to do this one particular thing that I'm only going to have to do one time. I'm never going to do this one thing again ever. And yet I'm spending hours and hours and hours trying to figure out how to do that. It would be so worth it to just have that Facebook group that I could go to and ask that question, have that coach that I could go to and ask that question, have that relationship with one of those hybrid publishing companies that would have taken care of that for me. That's what I would go back and tell myself, because I did everything with the exception of the original cover design, which, by the way, I had to go back and recreate because the designer couldn't provide print ready files. So I then had to go back and take the design and recreate it, write the book, figure out the printing, do the interior layout, do the recording of the audio. Like, there's so much that I think people don't realize go into this. Doing it on your own, in addition to just like the content of the book, I mean, that's it. It's insane. It's insane. I have a whole new respect and admiration for people who write books. It's an incredible process.
That is
And by the way,
incredible.
if you go, here's the kicker. If you go today on Amazon and grab a copy, and I hope that you do, I've got them on Amazon as low as Amazon will let me put the price for the paperback version. I make a whole 42 cents for every book sold today. 4 years of work. Yes, 4 years of work. Thank you so much. 42 cents.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That is fantastic. So we'll make sure in the comments. I wonder, I can't seem to do it very well here, but we'll make sure that we've got that in the comments, the link. There we go. Got a copy. It's on my profile, y'all.
Thank you.
It's on my profile. So make sure you grab a copy of it. It is a fantastic book. And so you're making 42 cents on it. So there's a really good point on that too, coaches. So Chad, why are you working so hard to make 42 cents?
Well, first of all, I would say, and I mean this like with all sincerity, it's the impact factor. This book wasn't just hard on me. It was also hard on my mom. And you read it, if you're reading the book, I'm still working on my relationship with my mom, and this was hard on her, for me to lay out everything I laid out and talk about what I talked about. And she was a real trooper, a real champ. And she said, if it just helps one other family have a better experience than what we had, then it was all worth it.
Oh,
and
wow.
At the end of the day, like, that's really what it's about. It's not about the money. Also, like, as you mentioned, I talk a lot about meaning and purpose in the book. And I'm sort of in this phase in my life where I needed something to live longer than me. And so this was a legacy thing for me. I have a niece and nephew who are really little, and I want them to know about their history. And so those were like the main reasons, um, and that's the real payoff. And other than that, like there will be a business on the backside of that, but that business is just a vehicle to do more making of an impact. It's that vicious circle, and so that's why.
I love that. I love that. I always talk about a business being a vehicle. It's a vehicle for your clients to get what they want. It's a vehicle for you to be able to, make that living. It's a vehicle for the team members to be able to, get bread on the table and be able to realize their vision as well. It absolutely is a vehicle. And I think sometimes people oversimplify the role of a book as being kind of that single vehicle that's going to jettison them into some kind of a success metric. And I really appreciate you sharing, one, that they can get the book today, two, the amount of work that it took for you to be able to do something this big, this bold, and this impactful. And what the payoff is, the profit margin is on that. But that it plays a bigger role in your bigger vision as well, because I don't think a lot of people understand how books kind of fit into a bigger picture vision like that. That's so
Yeah,
cool.
and I'm looking forward to our one of our Monday calls where I can show you the thing that we like to do together and show the big picture and how this one little piece is part of such a bigger thing. So I'm looking forward to that, and maybe we can chat again when that's further down the road, and we can share that with your coaches.
Yeah, I'd love that. Love that. Do some nerding out.
Yes, yeah, that's kind of our thing. Yeah.
That's kind of our thing. We love to nerd out. And I'm so grateful that you've gone down this path. My family likes to get on me about whether or not I'm going to write a book, and I'm just grateful to have a friend like you that has definitely run down this path far ahead of me. It's always nice to have that friend that's been in the trenches.
Yeah.
But before we wrap it up today, I mean, like, is there anything you'd love to share with, and thinking about sharing, y'all? Today's June 1st. The more people that purchase a copy of Break and Untangle today, the further it's going to reach. So, if you would be so kind as to share this video, this interview, I've set it to be public so it can go as far and wide as you care to share it. Chad, any final thoughts before we wrap it up today?
I would just want to say thank you to you so much for being such a good friend and listening to me every week. I know sometimes that is painful, but I just thank you so much for being a friend and helping. And I really appreciate you and what you do. And this morning you called me with your son on the phone, and that was just like really heartwarming for me that he'd like watched the trailer and was like impressed. And I was like, that was just like really, that's better than any 42 cents. So thank you for that.
Well, you're gonna get me misty eyed on a live public broadcast. I told everybody to share far and wide. So you deserve it, Chad. You've been working so hard on this, and ladies and gentlemen, and whoever sees this, strangers, friends, family, colleagues. I do not endorse and promote things that I do not wholeheartedly believe in. This book is is really really worth reading. And so, if whether you're a reader or not, Chad even did an audio book, so you
I'll
can
even read it
listen
for
to
you.
it. He'll
I will
even
read
read
it
it
to
for
you.
you. He'll read it
That's
to
right.
you. So go check it out on Amazon today, you guys. And thank you again so much for joining me, Chad. Really appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
Good luck with your launch. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Amanda.